You are listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe of Torch in Houston, Texas. This is the Living Jewishly podcast.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Everyday Judaism podcast, where we study practical halacha, where we're going in order of the teachings of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abbreviated Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. And today we're going to talk about the next part of prayer, which is the final section of prayer. Till now, we discussed the Amidah, we discussed Tachanun, the supplications, we talked about the reading of the Torah, we talked about an invalidation that arises in a Torah scroll, and now we're going to talk about what happens at the end of prayer, which is Ashrei, Uva Letzion, and the end of Shachris. Now, just so that we have as a point of introduction, we need to know that there are several parts, most of which were discussed in this series, in prayer. And that is, we started off with the first part of prayer, which is Birchos HaShachar, the morning blessings. Then we have Karbanos, which is the offerings. Then we have Psukei de Zimra, which is the verses of song. Then we have the Birchos Shema and the Shema, which is the blessings of the Shema and the actual Shema. We have the Shemona Esrei, which is the Amidah, the 18 blessings. We have Tachanun, supplications. We have Kriyas HaTorah, the reading of the Torah on the special days that we read the Torah, which are Monday, Thursday, and Rosh Chodesh. And then now we are going to discuss the final part of prayer, which is Ashrei and Uva Letzion. So after Tachanun supplications, or after Torah reading on Mondays, Thursdays, and Rosh Chodesh, Ashrei is recited. Ashrei is the 145th Psalm in the amazing authorship of King David. It is proper, number two, it is proper to have special concentration when reciting Ashrei, and particularly by the verse of Potach Eet Yadecha umasbia lechol chai ratzon. We know that the entire Psalm is written with the letters of the Aleph Bet, and the letter Pei is Potach Eet Yadecha, which is you open your hand and satisfy the desire of every living thing. That is a very, very powerful verse, and it is increasingly important for one to have special concentration when we recite, and to have kavana, focus, concentration when we recite that verse. After Ashrei, we recite Lamnatzeach, which is a special psalm, Psalm number 20, for the conductor. Lamnatzeach is omitted on the following days: on Rosh Chodesh, on Chanukah, on Purim Katan, which is, if you have a leap year, it'll be the 14th and 15th day of Adar 1, the first Adar. On Erev Pesach, the day before Pesach, Chol HaMoed Pesach and Sukkot, Erev Yom Kippur, and Tisha B'Av. Lamnatzeach is omitted on those days. Lamnatzeach is not recited in the house of a mourner either. When Lamnatzeach is not recited, El Erech HaPaim is not either recited when this is part of the prayer which is said upon taking out the Torah from the ark. It's not recited if Lamnatzeach is not recited. So it's the same rule applies to both of them. After Lamnatzeach, the Kedusha of Uvaletzion, a Redeemer shall come to Zion, is recited with its Aramaic translation. Now, we have to understand there's many deep Kabbalistic reasons to why each and every prayer is part of our prayer. We're going to get into this when we talk about the prayer in our prayer podcast. We're going to get into the deeper meanings. We're going to get into the understanding of why our sages, the men of the Great Assembly, instituted our prayers to have these parts of prayer included in our daily prayer regimen. But now we're talking about the halacha of what is said, when it is said, and how it is said. Not into the depths of understanding. I invite you all of our listeners, I invite you all to listen to our prayer podcast. You get that depth, you get that understanding as to the reasons why certain prayers were added to our daily liturgy. Okay, so number 7, after Lamnatzeach, the Kedusha we know, is the special prayers that were intercepted by Moses when he ascended Mount Sinai, went up to the heavens and received the Torah. He heard the angels singing certain praises to Hashem. He recorded them mentally, obviously, wrote them down for us to include in our prayers. Very, very powerful prayers, like when we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kedusha is a very essential part of our prayer. So after Lam Netzach, we recite the Uvaletzion, which has this Kedusha, and we say its Aramaic translation. Number 8, it is proper to have special concentration when reciting the Kedusha of Uvaletzion, and to recite the translation in an undertone. So you say the Hebrew part out loud, and the Aramaic translation in undertone. Number 9, it is prohibited to leave the synagogue before the completion of the Kedusha of Uvaletzion. It is not appropriate for one to leave the synagogue before we have this Kedusha recited. One should take special care to recite the Kedusha of Uvaletzion with the congregation. And of course, with concentration. The Kedusha of Uvaletzion is so important that even if one arrived late to synagogue and the congregation was already up to the Kedusha of Uvaletzion, it is proper to recite it with the congregation even before one's own prayers begin. And even saying the introductory 2 verses, or even skipping the Ashrei and Amidah and later catching up, in order to recite the Kedusha of Uvaletzion with the congregation. After Uvaletzion, the Aleinu is recited. Aleinu l'shabach, which is the final, really essentially the final prayer of our morning services, which is, it is our duty to praise the Almighty. That was composed by Joshua, the prophet, after the Jewish people conquered Jericho. One must recite this prayer with awe and reverence. After Aleinu, so we have now, this is our fourth part. We said Ashrei, Lam Netzach, Uvaletzion, and now Aleinu. So after Aleinu, we conclude the morning prayer with the Shir Shel Yom, which is the psalm of the day that were sung by the Levites. Every day, including on each festival, a different psalm was sung. We recite those same psalms to commemorate those services that were in the temple. So this is the last licks, the last little drop, is we sing the song that was sung by the Levites in the temple every day. The order of the final prayers vary based on location and custom. Each community should follow their appropriate custom. So you have to understand that in different synagogues, they will have a different order in how they conclude the prayers. In one synagogue, they'll say certain things, certain parts of what we just discussed first, and then Aleinu at the end. Some they have a different varying orders, all based on their own custom. Each person should follow the custom of their congregation. The order that is brought here in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is the order of the Ashkenaz community, and the Ashkenaz community does it in this order, where you have the reading of the Torah, you have Ashrei, Lam Netzach, Uvaletzion, Aleinu, and Shir Shel Yom. In other congregations, they have it in a different order. They'll say the Shir Shel Yom first, they'll say Ashrei Uvaletzion before returning the Torah to the Ark. So again, everyone, I don't want to confuse you, but I just want you to know that there are varying customs to the order in which these final prayers are recited. We all say the same thing. But the order in which it's done varies based on custom, location, background, and what each person should follow their own custom. Upon leaving the synagogue, I will tell you also that even if you have your own custom, as an individual, you should follow the custom of the synagogue. So the whole congregation recites it together, and not, this one has his custom, he does it like this one has that custom, and then it becomes chaos in the synagogue by everyone doing their own custom. You follow the custom of the synagogue when you're there. For example, when I prayed very frequently in a Sephardic synagogue, I remember I asked my rabbi, what should I do? Because Ashkenazic custom is that during Kaddish, we stand. Sephardic custom is to sit. I'm Ashkenaz. When I'm in a Sephardic synagogue, what do? Should I be the only one standing, or should I sit? The halacha is that you follow the custom of the place that you're in. And because I was in a Sephardic synagogue, I remained seated, even though my personal custom as an Ashkenazic Jew would be to stand. And vice versa. A Sephardic in an Ashkenazic synagogue should stand for Kaddish when he's praying there, right? That's the way it works. Okay, so now, number 17. Upon leaving the synagogue, this is a very important section of decorum. It's common sense, but again, halacha doesn't leave anything unwritten. We have to know how to conduct ourselves upon leaving the synagogue. It is proper to recite a special verse from Psalms chapter 5, verse number 9, which is Hashem necheni. Hashem, guide me in your righteousness because of my watchful enemies. Make your way straight before me. What's the enemies? That's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara that's always clawing at us, always trying to distract us. So when we leave synagogue, we have to make sure we say a special prayer, Hashem, protect me. I'm going out into the wilderness. Protect me to continue to follow your ways, as your ways are the straight ways. Number 18, one should bow before departing from the synagogue like a student departing from their master. Right? You imagine, you've probably seen this when people do the namaste, when they leave their master in yoga, they bow, right? Where do they get that from? That's the way we leave synagogue. When we leave the master of the universe in our prayer, we bow and walk backwards. You never turn your back to the ark. You never turn your back to the synagogue. Therefore, by the way, this happens you can see this when you go to the Western Wall. I had the privilege of being at the Western Wall multiple times last week. And it's amazing what you see, that people actually follow this halacha properly, in that when you leave the temple area, you walk backwards. You see people walking backwards. You don't turn your back to a holy place. The holiest place we have in our synagogue is the ark, where the Torah resides. And therefore, you never turn your back to the ark or to the synagogue when you leave. The same should be done upon descending from the ark and or leaving the bima. One should not exit with his back towards the holy ark. One should not run upon leaving the synagogue so as not to give an impression that synagogue is a burden. And finally, if one was leaving synagogue and heading to the Torah study hall, running would be warranted, as it is towards a mitzvah. When you run, the only time you should run is running towards a mitzvah. So if you're running to study Torah, that's a mitzvah, and that's fine. But otherwise, it would give an impression that you're not satisfied, you're not pleased with your burdensome experience at synagogue, and that's why you're running away. No. You're running to a mitzvah, that's fine. But otherwise, we don't run upon leaving the synagogue. So, my dear friends, this concludes Siman 25. If you have any questions, I look forward to hearing it in our upcoming segment of Ask Away, number 4. So, my dear friends, this concludes our study of Siman 25, the final prayers of the morning service. Next week, God willing, we're going to do Siman 26, which is about the mourner's Kaddish. And for now, my dear friends, we will sign off, and we thank you. We're going to have our next segment of Ask Away, which will be a separate segment that will be released later in the week, God willing. Thank you.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.